content over everything.
You need to study Torah.
Oh yeah, I know.
No. Listen, my friend. Humanity is the way. As long as you are believing in humanity, that's all there is.
Do you know why I wanted to be like King Solomon? Because I saw King David and I realized that I could never be like him. But I've got a chance of being like King Solomon.
But don't have his wives. He had 1,000 wives.
No, I just want his wisdom.
Wisdom, no wife. Not his wife.
Me, when it comes to women, I believe that the best person to be like is Abraham.
Oh yes, what is enough? What is enough?
Wisdom.
Of course, Abraham just had one wife, Sarai.
That's it, just one wife.
No.
No.
He had one wife, and that wife told him to marry other women. That's all I want.
No, out of necessity. When she had enough, she told him to let her out.
For me,
out of necessity.
For me,
she was clever. She did what she wanted and told her to go.
See, Abraham had the best wife ever known to mankind, Sarai. She said to him, Abraham, go marry other women.
Out of necessity, she's a clever woman. When she had her goal, she told him, take a lever.
But back to King Solomon, our only one is wisdom. That's it, wisdom.
Yes. We should all have wisdom to choose the right
leaders. Defending anti-Semitism in the Labour Party, saying it's not real.
Right leaders.
And there's 15,000-page dossier.
Take care.
I'll see you another time. It was a pleasure talking to you.
I see.
When?
I don't know.
But as I was saying, take care. And as a Labour supporter, we don't hate Jews. We love Jews.
Just try and encourage it from more of your co-political parties.
No. It's just
your comrades.
It's just Corbyn was the odd one out.
There's huge anti-Semitism in the Labour Party now.
Anyone who wants suspended Labour MPs resign.
15,000-page dossier.
I'm a supporter, and all my heroes are Jewish.
Yeah. No. To be honest, the overwhelming majority of Labour members aren't anti-Semitic. However, of all the political parties in the UK, Labour has the worst problem with anti-Semitism. And unfortunately, it's going to be there for a while, and it's going to take them a long time to cleanse themselves of this hateful ideology, this conspiratorial ideology that swept the party.
Do you ever read the Old Testament, New Testament?
Oh, I know what I'm supposed to know like the back of my hand.
Okay.
In the Old Testament.
There's a story there about called Purim. Purim. It's a festival, a Jewish festival.
Oh, is it when you?
On this festival,
when you celebrate,
all the Jews are going to be killed. Okay. And what happened? On the 12th month, on the 13th day, the decision was reversed, and the man who was supposed to kill the Jews was killed himself.
What, Nero?
Yes. Now, hold on. What was it? When did Corbyn fall down? On the 12th month, on the 13th day. Okay? Just remember that.
So let me show you.
Read it.
So what I believe, so when it comes to the Old Testament, I only believe one verse. No, two verses.
And that verse, read the story of Purim.
No, when it comes to the Old Testament, I only believe two verses. Psalms 122, verse 6 and 7. See? Psalms 122, verse 6 and 7. That's what, as a Labour supporter, that's what I believe in the whole of the Old Testament.
No, look at Psalm 20. 20,
I don't know that one.
No, if you need any help, read Psalm 20.
For me, Psalms 122 explains it all. Pray for Jerusalem. That's it.
Please go. Peace.
باب توما ليه ما عم تروح باب توما باب شرقي؟
Anyway, take care. Shalom.
Anyway, I will have to love you and leave you. My husband getting cold.
I think we're all getting cold.
It was lovely seeing you.
It was lovely to see you. Man Simchatenu.
يلا مع السلامة.
when it comes down to how people decide,
Listen,
vote, I mean,
you
I
vote
myself,
Labour. You vote Labour.
Yeah, have you seen
Like a
YouTube?
true anti-racist.
This chap's always on YouTube.
I don't
He
think you're. I
spends his
genuinely
time-
don't think you're an anti-racist. I think you're anti-right wing, and that's fine. I think that's a good thing to be anti the far right.
Well, I'm not. I've never said that I'm anti-racist either.
You describe yourself as anti-fascist and anti-racist.
No, I've never said anti. Do I?
Yeah.
On my Twitter.
I'm not sure it's on your Twitter, but I've definitely been there when you've described yourself as both an anti-fascist and an anti-racist
thing
and a
about you-
pacifist.
No,
One
anti-violence is fascist.
So you're not. Are you anti-racist?
Yes, of course I'm anti-racist, but that's not.
But-
I'm not going
but-
after. But I am focusing on anti-fascism.
Yeah, one thing about you. Why
Like
do
anti-fascism, anti-war.
you're a defender of the Chinese Communist Party, my friend.
why do
You
you
should
waste
probably,
your time talking to Tommy Robinson supporters every day? It's a waste of time. They're not very bright.
Hey, I've got people.
They're not very bright, Tommy Robinson
I've converted
supporters.
some.
Hey?
I've converted some.
Yeah.
A lot,
They're
I've
just
got numerous
set
that
up
help
by
me
the
out.
Zionists.
Can you give me an
They're
example
set
of
up
any
by
far-left racist that you've stood against? Far-left racist.
I'm anti-fascist. I'm anti-fascist, anti-violence.
Can you be left-wing?
What is it?
So,
Anti-violence, anti-war, and anti-fascist.
so the EDL aren't fascist.
I never said they were.
But that's who you oppose. That's who you oppose. That's like the main people you stand against are the EDL, yeah.
They're
That's who you
violent.
go up. Yeah, you go after the like. You're in all their protests filming them.
EDL don't
but they're-
exist anymore.
I know, but okay. Tommy Robinson's followers, the EDL when it stood,
So, but
the
what
Football Lads Alliance, the Democratic Football Lads Alliance.
I said this earlier. I try and get people on the fringes of fascist ideologies because they're easier to.
How is the EDL or any of these movements fascist?
Okay, I just said I go to the people on the fringes of fascism.
No. So I'm asking.
So I could.
How are these movements fascist?
Okay, so I'm literally halfway through making my next documentary, which is about Tommy Robinson, generation identity, and the Great Replacement, which he is now promoting. So I would say that is pushing him further towards fascism, like we're seeing in
What is fascism?
communities. So fascism, to me, I go by Umberto Eco's definition, where there's 14 characteristics. It's the cult of tradition,
State,
the
land,
rejection of progressive values, action for action's sake, all the 14.
And so how is the EDL anything to do with that? They're basically, their only principle is they have an anti-Muslim prejudice, I would
The
say.
EDL don't exist anymore.
Okay, the Tommy Robinson's following, Danny Tomo, all these people you follow
So
around,
they're-
how are they remotely fascist?
Okay, so you could go through each one, and they have a layer of difference. They have difference.
No, they're just it's just
Is
Islam. It's
different?
just Islam.
Is Islam different to us?
Of course it is.
So every
It's wrong to be anti-Islam.
But the thing is,
No,
it's
it's basically because the conversation is anti-racism, and Mark is very, very passionate and active in combating certain forms of prejudice.
It's not
in
nationalist,
society.
it's just
I call
anti-Islam.
myself an anti-fascist, and he's trying to now say I'm anti. And now he's saying that I don't.
I'm saying you don't go after fascists. No, I think you're missing it. You're joining the conversation late. You're joining the conversation late.
Ralph, is he further right than a fascist?
I would say Ralph is further right than fascism.
Yeah, so I've mostly made most of my videos on him. Ralph is someone who is infiltrating the Tommy Robinson movement. He's now in a with at least Danny Tomo and I imagine Richard Inman. So he's getting involved with all these characters. I've warned them that he is further right than a fascist.
But if
What
you
are you doing
actually
with
look
him?
at actual
And he's
fascists in
still-
the
and they are
UK,
still with them.
you look at
So
actual
if they're
fascists,
not
the National
fascist-
Front,
if they're not
BNP.
fascists, they are appeasement.
But if you look at actual fascists, the BNP and the like,
Jesus is
they
just
focus
about-
on Jews. I'm asking
Yeah,
you.
because Jews are more powerful than the Muslims
Go
in the
away,
West.
go away.
I don't want to talk about that. Oh, right, because you don't want to talk about
Here's
Jewish
a
power.
classic racist, yeah?
No,
Classic
look at
racist.
Trump.
I know
Look
him.
at Trump.
I've never listened
Look
to him.
at Trump. Look at Trump. He's 100% Zionist. He's got the most strong anti-Semitism laws that you could possibly have. He's putting in forward in America. If you say anything against Israel,
Why
they
are
call
you changing the topic?
because the Jewish power It creates more wars in the Middle
We were
East.
having a conversation.
Yeah.
Come on, mate.
So my thing
Why do you believe in freedom of speech?
You have your freedom of speech.
You can just push him away, man.
No, but like,
He talks about Islam, he don't talk about Jewish power. They're both powerful. Talk about both.
Christianity is also still
Well,
powerful.
and Christianity.
Christianity has no power compared to...
Is this religion or race? Race or religion? What is this about?
It's also crazy, like, Christians are the most powerful people on the planet today.
No, they're not.
Oh, come on,
We-
mate.
Christianity is still the biggest religion on earth.
It's a big religion, but compare
Who's
them
head
with
of almost
compare
every
them with
Western
Islam.
state is a Christian.
Compare,
Of almost every Western state is
Yeah,
a Christian,
like probably a
including
free
Donald
man
Trump.
as well.
No, but secretly, they're Jewish.
Secretly, they're all Jewish, yeah, according to my friend here.
I've got to go.
So my main thing with you is, like, when you first came on the scene, I actually thought it was very refreshing. I thought you were principled and opposed to all forms of racism. Then when I saw you posting that meme, which is anti-Semitic, and you refuse to remove it,
I'd have to disagree.
you have to disagree
No,
that
I
a picture
still
of
have to
Tommy
disagree.
Robinson dressed as a Jew
himself, he dressed
posed
himself-
on an Israeli
Yeah.
flag with money behind it. You're saying that isn't
he
anti-Semitic?
stood behind
He
a
takes,
tank,
he
an
takes
Israeli
money
tank.
from
Tommy
Zionists, so
Robinson.
it's
Yeah.
Zionists are where he gets a big.
How can you
load
call
of his-
yourself anti-racist?
I think what you're trying to say, you
That's a
think
deeper
he's
for you.
taking some money from some Jews.
I know he. No,
Right,
Zionists.
but you can't
Not
be
Jews.
put
I'm not
into a
saying.
generalised argument.
No, like, I never like.
He'll take his money from wherever he can get it, I think.
Yeah, of course.
Right, so there's no... Making a link between him and Zionism, it's a bit weak, isn't it?
What about outside the Old Bailey? Who
I
paid,
didn't make it.
Who paid for that?
Here's the
It
thing.
says you seem to be doing it with
I
the
was
graphic.
watching a video
Yeah.
of. I can't remember what the video was even
It was
about.
a Shamsi video.
Shamsi and he was like attacking Tommy Robinson.
No, I don't think he was.
Well, what was he doing? I can't remember. Now.
Yeah, I can't remember the video,
But he was definitely exposing that.
Shamsi had made or whoever ran that channel had made an anti-Semitic meme, posted it on the video. You shared it. I pointed out it was anti-Semitic, and instead of taking it down, you doubled down.
No, I mean, look, if I put a picture of Boris Johnson and him behind a Russian flag and him in a Russian hat, when he is legitimately taking money from Russia, that's not racist.
No.
So you fundamentally don't understand anti-Semitism then. One of the most common anti-Semitic stereotypes...
Would that be racist?
One of the
No,
most
I
common-
understand that
but
stereotype.
Is that Jews
I
are bankrolling all
I
these
understand that
disruptive
I
movements.
They
understand that
paid for Tommy
stereotype.
Robinson's court case.
I understand that
Okay.
stereotype, but
They
here's the
paid
thing.
for the outside the Old
There's
Bailey.
also a stereotype that if you're not allowed to criticise
Yeah.
a political ideology, then that means that's
Tommy Robinson
that's
was dressed as a
Hold
Jew.
Hold on, that's a characteristic of fascism. You said earlier that because there's 90% of Jews support Israel, that means to be against, to
Tommy
be
Robinson was
anti-Zionist.
dressed
Hold
as a
on, let me
Jew.
finish. Let me finish. You're saying that to be anti-Zionist is to be anti-Jew. So
No,
let's say
that's not what I'm saying, Mark. I'm saying that if you post a picture of Tommy
no,
Robinson
you literally
dressed
just
as
said
an
that.
No, I said
No, you said that over there on camera.
No, so what I said over there
if
on
you're
camera.
going against 90%
Mark, what I
of,
said.
90% of Jews.
If people, Mark,
Jews,
what I
then-
said is if people say that they are friends of the Jews, but only friends with this tiny minority of people, Jews that are against Israel, which is a real fringe movement, a fraction of a fraction, then they're not really friends of the Jews. They're friends of these tokens who happen to be aligned with their political view. The only thing that unites the Jews...
Okay, so would you be friends with someone who you felt was attacking and killing Jews?
Would I be friends with someone who's attacking and killing Jews? Probably no, I don't imagine I would.
So Muslims feel like their brothers and sisters have been attacked in Palestine, which is, I imagine, why they say they won't be friends with Zionists. Exactly, Palestine doesn't exist. So he keeps mentioning Palestine, the Palestinians, but Israel doesn't recognise Palestine as a state.
It isn't a state.
I know it's not.
Well, it's not just Israel.
The entire world
No,
doesn't recognize
there's a couple of countries that have just recognised it, isn't there? I think there's one.
Well, the world doesn't recognize the two regions in eastern Ukraine. They're still there. Whether the world
did I
recognize
just
it
say
or not
it was a
doesn't
state?
really matter.
What
Russia
region?
doesn't recognize the
I said the word
exterminated Ukrainians.
Palestinian.
during the Soviet Union.
He said the word Palestinian.
So
He said it in
anyway, to bring it
Tolkien's
back, Mark, it says going to Israel-Palestine is not my issue. Isn't that there was an Israeli flag? My issue is that it was a meme with Tommy Robinson dressed as an Orthodox Jew with his peyot, side curls,
He's very pro-Zionist.
with an Israeli flag
through,
behind
Tommy
him
Robinson.
and money. But like
Was the
the
picture
money.
photoshopped?
Yes, it was photoshopped. The Israeli flag. No, the Israeli flag and the money.
Tommy Robinson was not dressed as a Jew.
Literally, if you cannot understand
He
why
dressed himself as a
He
Jew.
dressed himself as a
Yeah.
Jew. So is Tommy Robinson anti-Semitic?
I said
for
quite
dressing
possibly
himself
for
as a
doing that.
Jew?
I said quite possibly. I need to know the
possibly.
context.
So
That's the thing, quite
sure.
possibly.
So now you're saying
you're trying to make me
He's,
say that
Tommy
the
Robinson, Tommy Robinson wasn't in that photograph saying that he was being bankrolled. The far right is bankrolled by Israel.
why was he
That's
dressed
the
as a Jew?
anti-Semitic. I don't know. I don't know why he was. Mark said he was dressed as a Jew. I don't know. I don't know if Shamsi photoshopped it.
No, he definitely was
did
on
it. Yeah,
stage.
yeah, I believe you, I
He was
believe
on
you.
stage dressed as a Jew to
do you
evade.
think he was
to,
anti-Semitic
it was
for doing that?
Possibly a
to evade
counter-regime.
detection.
Yeah, I need to know the context. That's
to
what I'm
know
saying.
the context.
Possibly, I'd need to know the context.
It was 15 years ago. He was doing it to evade detection, to get in. Like he wasn't allowed in somewhere, so he dressed up as a Jew so he could get in.
Personally, I'm one of these people that doesn't think that dressing up as someone necessarily is. I don't think it's somebody. As an example, it depends on context. So, if someone blacks up and behaves in a boat, that's 100% racist. Yeah, there's a film called there's a film called White Girls, where they white up, and nobody says that that's racist.
No, because there's no context.
I don't think when a child
There's no
dresses
context of
I agree.
white or black people dressing as white people
to be racist. I agree. That's what I'm
And
saying.
then
I'm saying context is
representing
everything.
them
So I'm saying
badly
fancy
on TV
dress.
and
So
so
I'm
on.
saying I agree. I'm saying fancy dress isn't inherently racist,
Okay.
but it can be depending on context. So I don't know the context of Tommy Robinson. It's quite possible it was anti-Semitic. But what is anti-Semitic is using a meme where Tommy Robinson is dressed like an Orthodox Jew with an Israeli flag behind him with loads of shekels.
Okay, so it's not racist to do it with Russians because they don't have that
That's
stereotype.
no, that's not
Is that
race.
what you're saying?
No, Russians aren't a race.
What?
Russians aren't a race.
Okay, it's not
Yeah, no,
xenophobic then.
Well, the Jews aren't,
Russians
because there's
aren't.
Ashkenazi Jews and
Yeah,
Sephardic
so
Jews.
And they have the same DNA.
So like,
Sorry, he
it's
said
very
Russians are not
like to be that kind of.
So I'm saying nuance and context is everything.
Yeah,
But the meme
like-
you posted was
Only when you
almost.
want it to
If I sent that to Quilliam or Hope Not Hate, they would all brand that as anti-Semitic.
Well, anyway, look. What I want
dressing
to
as a
say is,
Nazi
I watched
anti-Semitic.
that video. I didn't see the thumbnail
Possibly.
when I shared
Probably,
it,
probably.
and I wasn't.
Harry
This is the God's honest
Yeah,
truth.
that was really
I was
offensive, yeah.
only
So he
aware
is
of it.
anti-Semitic.
No, I don't think he's saying that. I'm saying what he did was offensive.
Okay, so
I-
you're doing something anti-Semitic doesn't make it anti-Semitic.
People can say
So
anti-Semitic
you can
things
do
without
some anti-Semitic
realizing.
actions, but not
Yeah,
be
yeah, but I-
anti-Semitic.
It's not my
It wasn't
video.
your video.
I didn't make it.
No, it wasn't his video.
So I just watched the thing. I thought it was an interesting chat because
Everybody
it
knows
exposed-
Tommy
Can I
Robinson
finish
is
a fucking
100%
sentence?
Zionist.
Wait,
It's like I'm on
let him
fucking
finish,
line,
let
and
him
like
finish, let him
literally online, people who want Jews to die literally shout over me all the time because I am trying to like correct bullshit wherever I find it. So like. I think, yeah, there is a lot of ignorance around all sorts of racism, anti-Semitism, and all Islamophobia, and even like the black community, and it's through conversations like these that teaches us. So for me to put that up, get comments on it, to have our dialogue, I think it's better to have that up there so then people can see and either agree, yeah, that is anti-Semitic, so in future I won't share that thing instead of continuously having to have that argument.
So I think that's noble. My issue, and it's not just with you.
I think
my issue with the left
my
in general.
issue with you was when you came at me with that, you were very antagonistic. And,
I was hurt. I considered you a friend.
I mean, I considered you a friend, and I was upset that you called me a racist or not anti-racist when like it's very difficult for me to like be perfect, if you know what I mean.
No, so my issue, and it's bigger than you. My issue with the entire left is they've spent a political lifetime using racism as a tool to attack the right. Literally, Boris Johnson is Hitler to many of these people.
No, he has said a lot of
And,
racist comments.
Can you just let me finish a point, and then you can heckle. But let me make my point. My point is the left has been fantastic at attacking racism when it comes from the right. But that's because it's politically in their interest to do so. When racism comes from the left, they're silent, they deny it exists. Yet it's been there from the inception. Marx was a racist, Proudhon was a racist, Engels was a racist.
There's loads of bigots.
Yeah, and so my thing is, if you look at what's happening with the current Labour Party, they doubled down, they protected, they closed rank, and they pretended there was no issue with racism within their rank. Yet they spent an entire lifetime positioning themselves.
Their, definition
only because they were forced. So
haven't they gone further? They've gone further than.
Yeah, they've changed their definition.
And they've gone further than
the only reason with the EHRC, yeah,
Corbyn is gone.
I
We'll
agree.
get to the bottom.
I agree. There's like 15,000
he's
page
gone
dossier.
If he leaves,
Corbyn is gone.
I mean, he's still in charge. He's not stood down.
He'll stand as an MP, but then he'll probably go because what's he got left to
in about an hour.
Yeah, it's pretty.
He's ruined the Labour Party.
And this is the thing, 75% of Jews voted for Labour post the war. That's dropped down to 6%. Half of British
it isn't
Jews
anymore. And that's not for it's for real reasons.
47% of British Jews, according to polling, saying they were seriously considering fleeing if Corbyn was elected.
So here's the issue I have. Like, we've been given a choice between what's currently happening now, where we're already sending black people home in the Windrush scandal, and we're already decreasing. Now it's like they've got a mandate to decrease benefits, so more disabled people are going to die, more disabled people are going to commit suicide. So there's going to be a lot of.
Can I correct you on Windrush?
Yeah.
People were sent out. They're now legal cases so that they can get either
they've got it.
get back,
Send them
they can get their British
send
passport,
them now,
or
and they can appeal later.
Right, but
That's
it's
still
wrong to
fucked
say
up.
that we're still. That's stopped.
That's
stopped.
Yeah,
So
we're
process
not-
is right. So let's be fair.
But it happened. That's what I'm saying.
It happened, and it was an absolute scandal. It should never have happened.
And I think most people agree it's a
not
scandal.
continuing.
I
That's
don't
the
think
point I
that
wanna make.
there is. Whether let's assume that Jeremy Corbyn is anti-Semitic. What would Jews fear?
What would Jews fear? So
Do you
anti-Semitic.
believe that he would be capable of a Holocaust or that far, or would you just
How does anti-Semitism work? It changes in every generation in every country, and each time it manifests itself in different ways. There used to be 1 million Jews living in the Muslim world. There's virtually none living there now. There used to be millions of them living in Europe. They were slaughtered in the Holocaust. Christian anti-Semitism was different than Muslim anti-Semitism was different. The communist anti-Semitism was different than Nazi anti-Semitism, and each time it manifests itself in very different ways. What I can tell you concretely is violent anti-Semitic attacks are on the increase in the UK. The largest mass movement of anti-Semitism the UK has ever seen has been under Jeremy Corbyn's watch.
That's true.
So I don't know. There's physical threat there's existential threats. Things that, as an example, most kosher food comes from Israel. Most rabbis are trained in Israel. Most Jews have family in Israel, myself included.
These are problems that South Africans would have faced during apartheid as well. When we were dealing with that issue, there would have been a lot of South Africans here who would have got products from South Africa.
No, it's like basically banning Muslims from Mecca. It's not the same.
It's not. You can get kosher food from.
Most kosher food is imported from Israel.
Yeah, but it's not as if you cannot get it from
Okay, you're asking me how it's going to be problematic. I'm showing you how it's going to be problematic for Jews. Existential threats to us. There's going to be physical threat to us. We don't know what laws may or may not change, but what we can tell you is we're afraid. And Jews, the persecution we face, we are very sensitive and very aware because we don't want to find ourselves in that situation again. Thank God we have Israel, because 47% of us, if we did flee, would probably go to Israel.
Here's the situation. We have, on one side, we have communities in fear, and on the other side, we have black people, disabled, and Asians, all sorts of immigrants in fear. So it's like the electorate.
Not the white migrants, though.
Has been given a choice of which person's the most racist.
No, it's not. It's to do with institutional. And I gave you the example before. No. I'll give you an example. Every single terror group that explicitly wants to murder Jews, Jeremy Corbyn cozies up to, calls them friends, goes visits them, takes money off them.
I think you'd be on stronger ground with anti-Muslim sentiment within the Tory party. I think the number of cases within the Tory party of anti-Semitism very low. It's mostly anti-Muslim.
And I think there's a difference between individuals that are Islamophobic or anti-Muslim. They definitely exist in the Tory party, but institutional.
2 years ago, there was more anti-Semitism in the.
Criticised the Tory party time and time again.
Just for the record, the anti-Semitism endorsed at least one statement. Men was 42%, women 29%, and Conservative Party 40%, Labour Party 32%.
And how did that
Liberals,
change? Jeremy
30.
Corbyn has created a mass that now those numbers have reversed.
No, your data that you showed.
The same company that did both surveys.
Yeah, the data that you showed.
Yeah, you're quoting the same survey just one year, a few years later. This is the campaign against anti-Semitism with YouGov.
The Labour Party are not far left. They are fairly left and slightly left, and that is where the least
slightly left.
You call this manifesto radical?
The fact that we're already kind of radically right, we're not in the centre ground at the moment, we're on the right, so to move it to
Boris
the left
Johnson
has to go a long
Boris
way.
Johnson has put forward the biggest spending plan and like basically
How's it gonna
centralised
pay for
government. No, I'm saying Boris Johnson is way more left than he is right, whereas Jeremy Corbyn is way more left.
Would you really say that?
Yes.
Even based on, are you basing that on policies?
how it works
Basing that on policies,
Or are you
yeah.
basing that on,
I'm basing that on
the
his spending.
language
What
of
does
his
left and
campaign?
right mean?
What do you mean? On the
economic
political spectrum.
question.
On a
Yeah.
political
So
spectrum,
economics.
Yeah, that's basically what we're talking
Social
about.
left.
Big government versus small government is basically what it comes down to. And Boris Johnson is more left-wing than pretty...
Traditionals, the
In regards to what, I'm just coming, correct me if I'm wrong, you are campaigning against anti-Semitism, you're anti-racist, you're
What I describe myself as anti-fascist, anti-violence, and anti-war.
But not anti-racist.
And you've no, but you,
I am anti-racist,
Because
but
that's
they're
very
the things
different
that
from
I
fascism.
focus on. Yeah, exactly. So you've described me as anti-racist.
Because you
And
describe
now
yourself as that to me.
No, I would describe myself as anti-racist, but the thing that I'm doing is anti-fascist.
But I actually don't think you go up against that many fascists. Danny Tomo isn't a fascist, he's an idiot,
the
but he's not a fascist.
way I oppose fascism is by, I can't, it'll be very difficult and very time-consuming for me to go into a complete neo-Nazi's lair and try and have a conversation with him and debunk
But
all
then
the
how are
shit
you
that he believes.
anti-fascist?
Because
you don't engage with fascists. You engage with people of an anti-Muslim prejudice.
Before they get there. So I feel like the best way to stop
Why not
fascism,
just be anti-racist?
the best way to stop fascism. No, because fascism just isn't just about race, is it?
No, I agree,
you
but there
don't-
is
you don't engage
there's no
with
fascists
that.
in the
You
UK.
don't
The
engage
fascists.
with
What do you think about the
Fascism
protests
is
in
creeping
London
in,
after
and
the...
we don't even realise. A lot of people don't
you
even
wouldn't
realise.
engage with
Like you
national
said,
action, would you though?
No, hold on. You said you don't know what anti-Semitism would look like. We're not going to know what fascism looks like until it fucking hits us.
But you did. You described it. You used.
There's no
yeah,
history of
that's
fascism.
it,
We can't
but-
recognise when it's
But are
growing.
they all fascist regimes the same? Do
No,
they all have the
but they
same
share
political ideology?
they share
characteristics.
So
Yes,
here-
and they're very
Mark,
subtle
here's-
and very kind of.
Here's a great
I agree,
thought
it's
exercise.
nuanced.
Here's a
It's
great
very
thought
nuanced.
exercise. You play your 14-point principle, the fascist. What was the principle?
Yeah, 14 characteristics.
14 characteristics. Do you compare that to Hamas? Because I've done the same exercise. Yeah. And you will find that Hamas, by that definition, are actually fascist. Yet Jeremy Corbyn describes them as his friends.
I describe fascists as my friends.
Then how are you anti-fascist?
Sorry,
in what sense?
Okay, so there's a guy called Daryl Davis. Have you heard of Daryl Davis?
No.
He's a black guy in America. He plays. He's a musician. He went into. He
went to the KKK.
Yeah, he went into the KKK.
No.
Treated them as friends. Went for dinner with them.
Okay, I don't know.
Went on stage with them, and it got to the point where the Grand Wizard insulted all the KKK members and said to this guy, he's more give him a compliment than all of you. And then eventually he's now derobed 200 KKK members with him and his friendly attitude. So that's my attitude, and I believe that is Jeremy Corbyn's attitude as well.
So you think that's what
Surely
Jeremy
the biggest
Corbyn's
threat
doing?
to the KKK was the legal action brought by the Southern Poverty Law Centre, which basically used financial analysis to show that the KKK were basically not paying their proper taxes. They used the same, powers that New York State used against the mafia. That shut down the KKK for a long time. Surely that's more effective.
So which anti-fascist, which fascist would you like to see him question?
I would like to see him question racists, because they're a much bigger problem in the UK than fascists. There isn't really a fascist movement in the UK.
So which racists are on?
So I would say most people on the left are fantastic at fighting racism when it comes from the right, and very, very ineffective at fighting racism when it comes from the left.
Did you watch my documentary on Ralph?
No, to be honest, after I unfriended you, I stopped watching his stuff.
I watched the online wipe video.
Honestly,
I would agree with you if you said the extreme left. I would say
Yeah,
the,
no, I'd
the
agree with
centre
it.
left, the pragmatic
Sorry,
left,
I agree with
the
that. I
Blairite.
agree with that. 100%.
The problem is the extreme.
Correction
Marxian left.
accepted. Completely agree.
I reference another YouTube video. I can't remember. I think it's made by Innuendo Studios, and I think it's called "How to Radicalize a Normie." It's an hour long, but it's really interesting. And you can see Ralph's tactics being played out within this. Like, it's not as simple as convince people to be fascist. It's convince them of a little thing, and then once they're in that circle, convince them of another thing, and then they just feel like it just becomes normalized. See, he knows, he's smiling, he knows exactly the tactic because he's doing it.
Process.
So so you cannot believe anything that these fascists are saying, and it fucking is. We are sliding down it, and people will say that they might be anti-Islam, but they might actually believe that it's the Jews that are pushing us, flooding us with Muslims. So at the moment they're only anti-Islam, but they will be anti-Zionist.
And what you've described as classic right-wing racism, left-wing racism takes on very different forms. And most people on the left-wing racism is more like, when it comes to Jews, it's more likely to revolve around Rothschild conspiracies, and Jews controlling the media, and Jews interfering with British politics to smear Jeremy Corbyn. These are left-wing.
And that is something. I came from a conspiracy theorist background in my 20s, so I was kind of reading all that shit. But obviously, like, I'm in a position of I don't believe anything until it's like 100% proven, and I like see it with my eyes, or there's like absolute data. So I will change my mind. What was my point?
Well, there's very few cases in life where you've got all the facts and it's 100% certainty.
No, of course. What did you say?
So I was basically saying left-wing anti-Semitism and left-wing racism is very. So one of the most common. Go on further.
So now that I've been in that conspiracy theorist circle, now when I hear that, I am challenging that when people say Jews run, or they mention the Rothschild or things like that.
Rockefellers.
And it's just like, come on, the vast majority of the 1% aren't Jews. So how can the Jews run the world when the vast majority?
But there's left-wing racism. I think the most common form of left-wing racism is actually having a prejudiced view of, and they do it with the working class as well, of being inferior, intellectually inferior, disadvantaged. And this is the most. It's literally it plays out.
I'm from a working class background, which is why I feel so strongly about like these communities.
There's a great video doing the rounds at the moment with some very privileged middle-class woman, young woman, saying at the protest you were talking about, is it on Friday night when they were marching outside Downing Street, and she's saying, it's so terrible that Boris Johnson is our Prime Minister, I'm going to work in the NHS because I actually care about people, I can't believe these working class people would, and it's literally... Breitbart, I think, so I had a little B in the corner, so I imagine it was Breitbart. But it doesn't change, she still said it.
No, I know, but this is the thing. So what I don't do when I go to these protests is film normal people, because normal people will say fucking ridiculous shit.
But is that not telling to the psyche of many on the left? So most of the people, this is why Jeremy Corbyn lost the election, because they're surrounded in this echo chamber of North London coffee shop drinking, middle class students and ex-students, and they're stuck in this bubble, so disconnected from the majority of British people, ordinary British people, and that's how they lost, because they believe their echo chamber.
I think there is a little bit to that, but I think it's a more multi-nuanced thing. I've been speaking to people up in the northern constituencies myself.
I'm from the Northern Wall, the Red Wall.
And Hull.
Maybe.
Does that count?
Yeah. What do you mean?
But now we're still in the Union. We'll see with a few weeks' time.
But yeah, people have been saying that they would never vote Tories because of what Thatcher did, and now they're still feeling the effects of Thatcher. That they've now it's as if it's gone full circle, and now they're voting for Conservatives as if to do more of the same. When you ask them what does Brexit now mean? Or like when you ask them what these catchphrases mean to them, like they don't have an answer. They just want to get
You're
things
doing
done.
what Labour do all the time. You're talking down to ordinary people. They know exactly what it means.
I think
I asked them,
an
and they
awful lot
cannot
comes down to
explain.
Jeremy Corbyn. An awful lot of ordinary working people know what a leader or a boss or a company owner looks like and sounds like. And when they looked at Jeremy Corbyn, they said, he just doesn't cut across. He's the leader in name only. And I think that's going to be the big issue.
But it doesn't take away from what he was saying about the disinformation that is out there with ordinary people, because they don't have time to go and read 300 pages.
They do.
They have to, or else they won't be able to.
Maybe you don't, but they do. Like, stop talking down to like.
It's not talking down.
It is. You're saying that.
Hold on.
It's accepting
They're saying
that
We're talking about a reality. It's a reality.
It's not a reality.
No, it's not. Look, you're being extreme now. You're saying it's
No,
not.
I'm telling you.
I'm saying some of it.
I come from a Brexit village up north, and everyone I know that voted Brexit up north knows why they voted Brexit.
No, I'm not saying they don't know why they voted Brexit. I'm saying there's a lot of disinformation out there. You can't deny that. I mean, come on.
Okay, so can I ask, were you a Remainer?
Yes, I am a Remainer. Yes.
But you were believing all that disinformation?
What disinformation?
No, the disinformation you believed it wasn't true.
What do you mean? You have
All
to,
those things that the Lib Dems told you, it wasn't true.
I knew.
No, but I don't support Lib Dems.
Also, what Labour told you, it was all lies.
What do you mean?
You don't know whatever you read, it wasn't real.
How would you say?
That's exactly how they feel when you do that to them.
It doesn't make sense what you're saying.
You're saying.
He's applying the same thing that you're applying to them, to you.
But you're not, because what I'm saying is there's certain things, okay, that people believed before Brexit. On the morning of Brexit, there was famous politicians which retracted from some of the pledges they were making. Okay, are you going to deny that
Well,
happened?
let's say you're 100% right.
It's not about 100%.
Okay, let's say you're right. Okay, I'm not denying what you're saying. I'm not denying what you're saying. I'm agreeing with what you're saying.
I wasn't finished.
How does that work for 2019? What you're saying works for 2016. How does it work for 2019, the election?
I don't understand the question.
Exactly. It doesn't make sense.
All I'm saying is most people who voted Brexit. What I'm saying is most people who voted Brexit had as much an idea as the people who voted Remain, and it basically comes down to where you digest your media from.
I would agree with that, and that's why I didn't vote in the vote referendum, because I knew both sides were lying.
I'm talking in hindsight, by the way.
And even now, if there was a left-wing deal that was made, I would probably likely vote for that. I wouldn't vote no deal. And I'm very sceptical of Remain.
Well, you voted Labour. You voted Labour.
Because they were offering that left-wing deal.
But they were saying that Jeremy Corbyn was going
I'm talking of the likes of Nigel Farage. Things that
I know what you're saying. The reason it's basically. We'll do one conversation time and I'll come back to you.
Constituencies in the country. They were completely torn asunder. And Corbyn wouldn't make up his mind.
I've got to go. I just want to say
basically that's
he had his mind made up. He just didn't want to admit it because there were many Brexiteers in his party.
And then take people with you. Mr. Corbyn sat on the fence.
I think we're underestimating the far right. I think we are definitely.
Okay, guys, wait, just a second. Just let me say one thing. One last thing. What do you guys think about the protests that happened after the election?
Pointless.
That's real violence. That's real violence. Did you not see it?
I tell you, I was there.
Did you not see it? There were fights with the police. There was destruction of property.
Do you condone? I saw a woman wearing a jacket that said "Kill Tory scum." Could you imagine someone wearing a jacket saying "Kill Jewish scum" or "Kill Muslim scum"? Or was it kill all
real
Tories?
violence, not just wannabe. Oh, I heard him say that. I heard him say that.
We've had people from both sides, Conservatives and Labour, make those jokes, and it's always used to attack people.
I'm not aware of anyone. Maybe there are lots of Tories going around saying "Kill lefty scum," but
probably the far left
I have to go.
Yeah, far left.
No, I just wanted to say something because I want to hug off you and I want you to unblock me. I've forgotten what I was going to say. Will you just hug me?
You were warning us about the rise of the far right.
that meme you posted was anti-Semitic, then I can put it behind us. If you can't accept that that was anti-Semitic, there is no common ground between us. Because you posted something anti-Semitic, refused to take it down, doubled down and defended why you did it. Then when I pointed out that Shamsi had said that it celebrated that Jews were kicked out of, or said that Jews deserved to be kicked out of Algeria, you doubled down and defended him then. I shared the link with you. I shared you the video.
Yeah.
And so when you can actually...
Someone is opposing you, you consider him anti-Semitic. If someone has an idea about the Jews should be kicked or not, why you take it as anti-Semitic?
Because
why you
to say
it's
that
a different point of view?
to say that Jews should be kicked out of a country is like hardcore anti-Semitic.
Is that what Tommy Robinson has been saying about
Semitic
Muslims?
and many Muslims are being suffering
what's
from
his
the
point?
Israeli country.
So
your country, the Israel, which you were speaking about how you like it.
He's Algerian from memory, that's why.
No, I'm not.
No, you're not. Okay, sorry.
So when you are speaking about Israel and how you like it, it is anti-Semitic because they are torturing Muslims and taking them.
I don't believe they are torturing Muslims.
Okay, so
that's
I
another
consider it
conversation.
anti-Semitic.
No, but if you
have to give him freedom. You don't speak about freedom when someone.
No, he's free to be anti-Semitic. I'm just not going to hug him if he is.
I mean, I'm not.
Okay, we know that you believe I am. You have amazing observations.
I think that you put your left-wing principles before standing in solidarity with Jews.
All right, so
I'm speaking about different topics.
Genuinely, that's why I'm
You don't understand as usual. You have no brain.
It's not something that I would have made, and it's not, as I'm not Jewish, it's really harder for me to like spot.
Another point.
When the problem with that instance was, you attacked me for it, but you didn't attack Shamsi for it.
No, I mean, I'm literally on record attacking Shamsi all the time. He calls me a dog. He calls me a Yehudi.
Well, I mean, like...
No, he doesn't call me Yehudi. He calls me Zionist. Sorry, correct myself.
When you came at me for it, like, it felt to me like it was less about the potential anti-Semitism, because I'm still kind of undecided. I will think about this and get back to you, because
I genuinely considered you a friend, and that's why I was offended.
Like, if I was offended that you were attacking me with it instead of publicly, instead of privately saying, "Hey, you've shared this. Do you not see it this way?" Friends would do that. We wouldn't do it publicly.
So you have to do. So we're at a time when anti-Semitism. Yeah, I get that. I'm living in a world where anti-Semitism is on the increase. Yeah, and someone who's described themselves as an anti-racist to me then posts something which is for most Jews anti-Semitic. Like if you describe that image to any Jew, they tell you it's anti-Semitic. And then instead of saying, okay, my bad, sorry, I'll remove it, you're like, I'm not removing it. It's not anti-Semitic.
Is it racist to...
Yeah, no. So for me, like, yes,
it's your values. It's your values, and you are trying to impose it.
Obviously, it's his values.
Okay, it's fine. You're right. It's my values.
I think look, you've got a disagreement here. Maybe you can revisit it.
Yeah.
There's no many good minds.
I just think it's a very fine line to conflate Zionism with Jews, because it gives Zionism this kind of unquestionable air.
But Tommy Robinson was dressed as a Jew, not as a Zionist. He was dressed as a
There's been violence a few days ago. We were talking about memes.
Yeah.
Okay,
let's talk about actual violence, destruction of property.
Let me address this violence that you think that was there.
Yes.
Because I was there. I've got video of it. You can go. In fact, I didn't.
You can look at videos on YouTube. There's a lot of violence that can be visible, especially with the police.
So yeah, especially by the police. So
by the police, they're defending themselves with shields, man.
With shields?
With buttons.
Sometimes.
Whatever. So you even getting that wrong. Like, so the anti-fascists and stand up to racism wanted to walk a certain way. The police stopped them. They kept walking with their hands up. People were filming.
But who was racist? Who were they protesting?
So there were racists who turned up, like Ralph and other people.
But they weren't protesting.
Literally. They were protesting the protest.
No, I'm sure that people may have turned up the protest, but the protesters were protesting Boris Johnson.
Do you think that Boris Johnson is racist?
I think he's said things that are very problematic. I don't actually think he's a racist.
Why can't you say that?
No, I'm saying I don't actually think he's a racist.
So why can't the same be?
Because if you look at his cabinet, it's insanely diverse. Because I think Jeremy Corbyn is an anti-Semite.
That's the thing with fascism.
Boris Johnson isn't inviting national action to Parliament.
So
Jeremy Corbyn is inviting Id Salah, Hamas, Hezbollah.
In a hope for peace.
No.
In my opinion.
So why is Jeremy Corbyn never met with any Israeli Prime Minister, any Israeli politician?
Have they refused to?
No, he's never met with them. He's met with Hamas, Hezbollah. He's gone to Doha. Yeah, he met with Hamas in Doha and in Gaza.
Where? I mean,
Doha. Yeah, yes, it's all over the internet.
Really?
Yeah, Doha. Yeah, there was a big talk. There was someone called Yahya something. He's met with Hezbollah a number of times.
Secretly or openly?
No, openly.
So if
a Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine, he met with.
If someone is seeing Hamas, he is in a problem. But if he sees Israeli officials, he's good.
Netanyahu never even saw Israeli. Sorry, Corbyn never saw Israeli officials.
Like I say,
if he visits Israeli officials,
he hasn't. That's the point. He hasn't. It's not that. If he was for peace, he would be meeting Israelis and Hamas. He would be meeting Israelis and the PLO. He would be meeting Israelis and Hezbollah.
Okay.
He would be meeting Israelis and the PFLP. He's not.
Guys,
Sorry, get back to your
seriously, I
question.
would really like people to think a little bit and not link things that people said and things that they think to actual physical violence.
Okay, so the physical
that you
violence,
don't compare.
I'm there.
Because what I saw on the videos, I wasn't there. You're right, but I was on the anti-Trump protest, and I saw actual violence there. Actual violence, like punching.
When I go to these things, I don't go to join the protest. I don't chant along with them. I go there as an anti-fascist capacity only. So I'm there, basically protesting the people who are protesting the protest. So these guys, maybe a dozen
Protesting the people who are protesting.
Yeah, it's a bit niche. So these people turned up, like people like Ralph and his this guy here, turned up to literally, like, if I won the election, I'd be partying, I'd be celebrating. These guys went there to gloat, to get their cameras in people's faces who were upset and to piss them off so much to attack them, which they do.
And you
at
went
any
there
left-wing
to moan,
protest.
man. Look, you
Hold on,
protesting the protesters of the protest can go all around
please,
again.
because I'm going to show you where the violence came from. The violence came from, and you can go to my YouTube channel, Fascist Beware, where I've literally just uploaded that footage today, where I've got a woman kicking me from behind, I've got a guy, that same woman taking my phone off me and throwing it, like, fortunately it hit her friend, and I got it back, but as soon as
That's ironic.
That's very anti-violence.
That's very ironic.
It was so much fun.
She hit her friend with her
Yeah,
phone.
she throws,
with your phone.
She takes my phone.
Yeah,
He picks it up and he's like,
that's karma,
he's
man,
like,
that's karma.
that's assault. That's the third time we've had our phones thrown. I'm like, dude, that's my phone.
Yeah,
And
I
yes,
condemn
that
it,
was
man.
assault.
I never condone the
so
violence.
these, like, there was a guy who told a black woman to fuck off just randomly as they were walking down the street. I go there in an fascist capacity to highlight the fact that these guys are literally going there to abuse protesters. When I go to their protests, I'm there in good faith to talk to them. I've not got my own camera out unless I'm talking to like the leaders or like the figureheads or the people who promote or that kind of stuff. So we're slipping into this normalised we can't accept violence from Antifa and the left, but it's just ignored from the right. Like,
I don't think there is much political.
Let him just finish.
Antifa only exist as fascist ideologies increase, and you can see this on charts. As fascism ideologies grow, so does anti-fascism in response to, and it's a kind of direct correlation.
Fascism is on the decline in the UK. It has been for a long time. The last serious fascist organisation was the National Front.
You might say that, but it's changing.
Generation
it's going online.
I have something to say about that, because I have a theory that the far left is actually creating the far right. It's because that people see the Antifa attacking people on the streets, they think, well, maybe that guy Hitler wasn't so wrong after all. And that's the danger of the far left.
And that is why I say that I want to inspire a more rational and non-violent response, because I agree that does create an image of people seeing that and seeing fascism when it actually isn't. And then they're convinced that what is fascism isn't.
No, it is. Look, the first thing you need to do is to accept responsibility. There is a fascist behavior in the Antifa. And what you need to do is to remove it, not to say, no, it's not there.
Can I just add something into this conversation?
Saying that it's not there. I don't stand with Antifa because they are pro-violence. I'm not.
So you call yourself Antifa? Huh? You call yourself Antifa?
When have I ever called myself? I get called Antifa.
So can I just add
You call yourself anti-fascist. It's Antifa.
That's different. So
can I just add something? 15 years ago, I used to run around with a lot of anti-fascists, and what stopped me was I started watching the YouTube videos of skinheads against racial prejudice and other groups in Europe who were more organised and more serious, and you actually watched them almost curb stomping and really violently beating Nazis. Like, I've got no love for Nazis, I'm a Jew, like we don't like neo-Nazis, but I realised that the violence that was coming from them, and this was a long time ago, it was a wake-up call that this is only bad and dark things are going to come from this movement. It's not a rational movement, it's a violent movement, and they also define who isn't a fascist, and that's the real danger.
Exactly.
As a Jew, I've been attacked by anti-fascists because of my stance on Israel.
I think,
which is you have to think about that. A group that was set up to attack like fascists and Nazis is now turning on Jews. That
You can
support
point
Israel.
your finger at anyone and call them a fascist and attack them. That's how bad the Antifa got.
No, they're not. They're not that.
They're very bad.
No.
Bro, okay,
If
let me
they've
give
got,
you a
like,
situation that I saw in the Trump in the anti-Trump rally.
Let me give you. I've got to go. I wanted to go to that. Like, I just want to say that I actually think that Antifa might be realising that their violent tactics might be a bit of a counter. Yeah,
I don't know. It doesn't seem that way. Still
I
being
think,
violent.
No, because when you're saying that there was violence on Friday, there wasn't. Like, compared to the violence that I have seen, it was women at the front.
Oh, compared there was.
Listen. It was women at the front of the lines, the women who were holding their phones, holding their like hands, and they were saying. They were chanting "No violence" chants, and then the police came up. They all were in the line. A policeman. I'm not releasing this footage because. I mean, I might do now that I'm talking about it.
I mean, it sounds good to release it, right? So people know to spread your message.
I'll tell you why I decided not to. I put it in the original clip, but then I sat there for 5 minutes thinking, I have had it in the neck before from Antifa for releasing footage of their faces, and they don't like that. And I appreciate that they don't want to be.
Why don't they want that?
Because
they want an excuse to destroy things.
I break the law sometimes.
Not violent. I try my utmost not to.
Some of the laws that I break probably have violence like connected to them.
The Antifa are a bunch of cowardly basement dwellers who get the courage to go in a group and attack people.
And I agree. And so I
only with the balaclavas.
So I believe we need a more rational response because I've heard a lot of people from Antifa speak, and I think that they could do what I'm doing. And if we had, let's say, 50 people doing what I'm doing in a Tommy Robinson crowd, you're much more likely to have 50 times more of an effect.
Yeah, I'll just spend 5 minutes. I'll finish this conversation, and then I'm literally finishing now.
I like your wedge, by the way.
I don't know why you're doing that. That you have to have an acknowledgement.
Right until it falls off.
The far-right movement is also growing equally politically.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean the language that's been used in politics, for example?
I just don't see it. I genuinely don't see it.
So I see it, and I've told you I'm making this one last this documentary about Tommy Robinson's generation identity and the Great Replacement, which he is beginning to push. So that is coming from an anti-Semitic place. So I think it's.
So I think GI are racist. I used to speak with Tom Dupre. You know Tom?
Yeah.
He's not a racist, I don't think.
No, he's going to be in this video, and I'm going to commend him for leaving Generation Identity. But I am going to call him out for doing that panorama thing. Tommy Robinson didn't say that he was in Generation Identity. Didn't say why he left, and he left. And Standard Chartered is banned.
Tommy Robinson was in GI.
No.
Oh, sorry, Tom Dupre.
Tom Dupre. Yeah, sorry. So Standard Chartered fired him. He was appealing that because it was unlawful. And it turned out to be the right decision because months down the line, there was a GI activist in the UK who was convicted of a load of racial aggravated assaults and things, real horrific. So it's like there's no argument to be made to be like you're getting fired if you're part of this group. Like that's happening all around Europe, that violence, just because it wasn't happening in the UK much. Like it's still.
But these are fringe movements. I think one thing for the camera, the gentleman who was here asked me if he thought that you were racist, and I said that I didn't think you're racist, and I just want to get on camera. I don't actually think you're racist. I do think you have a blind spot
I think we all
forms
have
of
blind spots.
racism.
And this is why I actually agree with Ralph when he says we're all racist or none of us are racist. I think we all have those bigotries in, and we all have to learn about them. When we're older, I'm pretty sure that all 90% of us, to our kids and our grandkids, will be like, oh yeah, that's my bigoted granddad, just ignore him. Like we think of our grandparents, they'll say like things that were normal
Speak for your
to
own
them.
grandparents.
Well, no,
Yeah,
well,
I don't think that badly of my
must know.
grandparents. Good guys. I like mine.
Huh?
Maybe they had wisdom that we didn't appreciate.
They had what? Wisdom. Well, mine definitely had. They survived the World War II.
This is how the far-right fascists want to get you. They want to normal. So this is another thing. I called out the first time I met Ralph. He started referring to everyone as a chimp. He was like, us chimps. And I said to him, on the second time he used it in a few minutes, I was like, why are you using chimp? It sounds like you're using that just so you can justify calling black people chimps at the expense of
Closely related to chimps. 98% of our genetics come from chimps. You know, it's not orangutans, it's not gorillas.
So I called him out on it, and he was like, oh yeah, whatever. And now, recently, this is about a year ago that happened. Recently, he has admitted that is exactly why he uses the word chimps, to normalise that language, so then he can keep saying it in the park, and all of a sudden, it becomes more normal to then refer to a black person as a chimp. And this is how they're doing it. It's not explicit in your face, it's bit by bit.
They have changed, they've rebranded themselves.
I just aren't going to look like
I genuinely don't think there's a problem with fascism
for
in this
example,
country.
the Brexit Party recently.
But yeah, I'm going to be moving on
I've
to
got to go.
fascism in politics after this video. But give us a hug, man.
Say the picture was anti-Semitic.
Very problematic.
Come on, guys, just shake.
I'll shake hands.
I'll shake hands. Okay, that's good enough.
Too bloody nice.
It's a Brexit Party. Did you see what happened recently?
Yeah. I think the Brexit Party, UKIP, they've all got problems. I'm not saying you don't get racist in the UK. I'm saying they're fringe, but I've got to grab.
What would Palestinians, what would they classify themselves as? And they all speak Arab, right? I mean, like, however, as you know, a large proportion, 50% of Christians. And the Israeli government, and the Israeli government, and the IDF are pushing an agenda whereby Christians. So I put it on and the main way I can Jews, so whereby Christian Arabs serving their identity is no longer Arab, but Arab members, and they're sponsoring, funding. So they're trying to replace Arabs and something that unites just here. Years, only a few hundred have taken up the offer.
Yes, it works then none.
So no one wants to not. So what is it you do?
ContentCOE everything from your community.
Man, say it straight. Man, don't listen to BBC. Man, don't listen to ITV.
Until you read the Quran. Okay, that's unusual. Most people.
Why is it unusual?
Because most people know that murder is wrong.
You've tried to bring an unnecessary question into it.
No,
it's an unnecessary question. You're like, oh,
What's
if Islam
unnecessary
thinks
about
killing is wrong, what's that got to do with the topic?
Because it
He's
shows.
asking you about the claims you made and the statements you made.
It
He's
is
asking you about the
perfect.
claims and statements you made about Islam. All right. So are we talking about that? We're not talking about if Islam or Christianity or agnostic people told me killing someone is wrong. So I'm talking about the claims you made and the statements you make about Islam. And the brother there said to you, what gives you the moral high ground to make statements on other religions going as that you don't believe in one?
Because people can use their intellect to reason about what's right and wrong. And so even if a book says, for example, that we should wage war until people accept Islam,
Who said that?
That's in Islamic
So you've
law.
seen nothing.
That's in
So
Islamic
you've
law.
seen nothing in the Quran that tells you to let people